Good morning, everyone. This is Patrick at Qdabra, and this is our weekly webinar. Thank you for being here. Today, we're talking about Microsoft's announcement a couple weeks ago, and we've been working on a tool to help you future-proof your forms. It's called FormsViewer. We are in release v1.2, and we're going to talk more about what that means today. But in a nutshell, I want to talk about why FormsViewer is relevant all of a sudden. We've been preparing for Microsoft's, I guess you should say, deprecation of services for quite a while now, and the announcement 2 weeks ago, which is still not quite confirmed, is that the Sandbox is going away in Office 365 on August 28th. And the Sandbox, for those of you who don't know what that is a code service. So if you have InfoPath forms with code, and you're using Office 365, there is the hint that that may not work in about a month or 3 weeks, or 4 weeks, I guess. No, I guess it's 3 weeks. But most of you are probably not in that boat. There may be quite a few people that are using Q rules in 365, and for you, you are in that boat. And the good news is we do have a tool that will bridge the gap and give you a continuity for your forms, and that's called FormsViewer. So FormsViewer is a tool that we've been working on for over 2 years now. I have the lead developer on FormsViewer on the call, Jimmy Risch. Jimmy, can you hear me okay? How's the audio?
Yes, I can hear you fine. Welcome.
Jimmy's calling in from our Japan office this afternoon for him, or actually it's very early morning for him. Today's demo we're going to show a really cool scenario because FormsViewer is more than just a replacement for InfoPath. It also has some extensions and some cool features. We'll talk about those. So for the demo, we're actually going to show you a common scenario where you create a form and it submits to different subsites based on how you create the form or what drop-down you select. So we'll show that. That's a really quick demo. We'll also talk a little bit about what's new in 1.2. So anyway, here's the nutshell. We kind of planned for FormsViewer around InfoPath Form Services going away in 365, and we don't expect that to happen until sometime next year. And I would say towards the end of 2017. I'm not sure. I'm not a spokesperson for Microsoft, but we're not sure. In general, Microsoft has I think it's a 6-month or a 12-month SLA. They have to tell you they're going to pull a service from 365 6 to 12 months before they do it. And that's why this announcement 2 weeks ago is a bit of a surprise, because we thought that it would fall under the same service level agreement, the SLA. So we have this quick summary here. So what is FormsViewer? So FormsViewer, and we're going to quickly jump to the demo. FormsViewer is an app that replaces InfoPath. Unlike many of the other tools out there, like Nintex or K2 or Ardevia or you name it, right, InfoWise, there's tons of solutions out there for forms. Unlike those solutions, it's the only tool that takes your InfoPath form as is and works, and we'll see that today. And so it allows you to continue in your structured document. Workflow is really important, and workflow, you want it to work on a single document, right, on the payload, as opposed to a list. Sometimes you want it to work on a list, but for most of your forms, you want the workflow to actually work on that submit. And like InfoPath, it retains that HTML-based layout, which is really important. Obviously, most of the other apps out there are HTML-based, but it takes the InfoPath HTML and uses that. So quick history around FormsViewer. We announced FormsViewer, the alpha, in December of 2013. We've had several releases to date, and we have 1.2 out there today. It has support for rich text, and it's pretty feature complete. There are a few things we're going to be adding in the next week or so. People Picker, I think, is one of the last things. And it's more than just InfoPath. Like I said, it gives you that continuity. You basically just install an app, and you configure your library, and you can open up the form in FormsViewer without changing your XSN. That's the idea. We also have Diagnostics. I'm going to switch to my demo quickly and show you what FormsViewer looks like when you install it. If you have questions, please use the questions area. So Here's Chrome, and here is FormsViewer installed on our 365 site. And to give you an idea, what you're going to do is install it as an app. If I go to our 365 site, I'm just going to go to our product testing subsite here. Hopefully it won't give me too much trouble. And you'll see that I have an app installed here called FormsViewer Dev. And that's where I just went to. So it redirects to a provider-hosted app. That's what FormsViewer is. And I can look at my templates. Now, the templates I have, this is our test site, so we've got some templates up here, including the webinar demo for today. Now, there's a bunch of links here. This just gives you a really easy way to upload your form templates. And unlike the publish process you're used to, for FormsViewer, you just save the document, so it's a lot easier. You just basically upload your form here, your form template, and you're done, and then it works. So it's just, and I'm going to skip that step. I've got these test links I can use from the FormsViewer app, and you can also, of course, open forms from the library. I'll show that in a minute. We also have this Diagnostics link on the right, and this is our scanner tool that we've developed in parallel to FormsViewer to show people what their forms are doing. And this scanner tool is basically going to give you a quick summary of your form. Let's actually look at one that's more interesting than that. This one is not. This is a pretty simple form. In fact, I'll show you the form in a second. But let's look at one that's a little bit more complicated. And let's see here if we've got one that has a large version number here. And I want to make sure I don't. I'm going to look at this form here. This is a form that's about 1 megabyte, I think, in terms of its size, and I'm just going to show the statistics on the form. So scanner is crunching away. It's a pretty large form, so it's going through the entire 1 megabyte compressed XSN, and it's getting information, and it's taking a little bit of time here because of the size of that form. You can see there's 219 fields in that form. This gives you some analysis of your form. And this is a great tool to use on your sites as you're planning to migrate some of your forms to FormsViewer. For example, this tells you kind of some metadata about the form. It shows all the data connections in the form. Of course, views. Just going to quickly tab through these. You got a lot of views. And then, of course, if we're looking at forms that have Q rules, you'll see that it lists out all the Q rules commands. This form has quite a lot of Q rules. Q rules is our plugin for InfoPath that extends InfoPath in some very useful ways. One of those ways is to allow you to dynamically change the URL that you're submitting to, and we're going to see that today in the demo. But so anyway, this scanner app is something that you can take a quick look at to get an idea of what your form is doing. I'm going to skip back and show you the form actually that we're going to demo today, and that is right here. So here's our webinar picture. This is a really simple form I threw together. You can see that I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fields. It's got a drop down that's going to detect, it's going to change the site. I'm going to submit my form to one of 2 sites, site A or site B, and then I've got a submit button. I've also got a rich text box here. We'll show you rich text working in FormsViewer. Okay, so the first way to test your form is you're going to upload it to FormsViewer just as an XSN upload, and then you'll click on one of these links. You'll notice that we have an anonymous link. So FormsViewer works from an anonymous site to help save you SharePoint license fees. You can have anonymous users submit forms, and that's an interesting scenario for quite a few people who want to have external people submit forms to their 365 site without having to pay the license fees. So I'm just opening our form now, and we are running the service from California today. So it's there's some logic on load that happens. It's basically it's trying to get a link, and it didn't have the link. I'm going to show you that demo next, but first to show you this one. So here's the form in Chrome. You can see one of the features that we have that you can't do in InfoPath Form Services is we've got actually rich text. So if we go to change the style here, and let's say I want to bold, and of course I've got a spelling mistake here. So rich text doesn't work so well in Chrome for InfoPath Form Services, but it works fine in FormsViewer, so that's a benefit to you. We also have spell checking. Spell checking is something that that isn't available for InfoPath Form Services, and specifically it's because it's because they don't know what library, what dictionary to use when they're doing the spell checking. Let's see if I can right-click on this. Okay, there's our spell checking there. Okay, now I'm going to submit this to Site A, and I'm going to put a name in here for me. And I'll tab out here and click on the Submit button. Now what this is doing is it's submitting it and it's closing the form. Of course, if we open it from a link, it will automatically return to that link. But since we opened it from FormsViewer, we get this dummy page, which you can just ignore. Let's go to the site and take a look at that. So I've submitted it to our child site A. So if I refresh this, I'm guessing that it will show up here. Hopefully the demo isn't a complete failure. And you can see that a few seconds ago I've got this form. We're just naming the forms with the date timestamp. And the form's opening, clicking it opens it in FormsViewer, and it's doing some stuff on load, so there's a little bit of a delay there, but not too bad. And you can see that I've got my form round-tripping from the site. Now, this is one of our two sites, so the other way to use this kind of scenario, and just to show you another InfoPath command that we've added to QRules, I've got a, let's see if I can do it from here. I have another page I've set up here that has two links on it. And let me just go back to the slide for a second, because I've got a slide on this too. So I'll show one more quick demo. But just to recap, FormsViewer is a tool that replaces your InfoPath form services. It also extends InfoPath in some cool ways. One of those ways is it includes all of the QRules commands. Well, right now there's 30 of them and it includes, but eventually it'll include all of them. We have the 30 most useful commands in there right now. Lots of different commands, but two commands that we're demoing today is that change submit URL. So depending on what I select in the dropdown, site A, site B, it will change the submit location. In addition, I can include that in the link. So I'm going to show next that demo where I have a link that sets the submit location, and that's quite useful. So there's some other benefits here. I'll make the slide deck available after the webinar for those of you who fill out the survey. And I still need to get the package out for last week. For those of you who were here last week, I'll get that out as well. I've got a new document I wrote on that technique I showed last week. So the multiple sites here, this is kind of the idea. We're going to be changing the submit URL based on which site we open it from. I've got two links, and if I hover over them, you can't really see the text down below that's pointing to it, but let's do site B. This is going to open up the form with that site B kind of basically it's going to pass a parameter to the form, which is please use B, and you can see there it's selected B. If I were to select A, it would default to A. But let's do B here now, and we'll just type in some information. We have a sister site called FormsQuo, and we'll type in some text. And we'll make this highlighted or something. And then we'll submit it. And as you can see, it is actually navigating out. It's navigating to site A, so that's actually a demo bug, because we should have set that up to navigate back to the actual site that we submitted to. And here is the site B. These are two different subsites off of my product testing site, and you can see that this form here is the one that we submitted a few seconds ago. And if I click on that, we should see the form I just submitted. And once again, there's a slight delay on load. One of the things that's really cool about FormsViewer is once you're in the form, you don't have postbacks like you do sometimes with InfoPath form services. And it allows you to tab quickly and hide and show text without delays. So it's 2 or 3 seconds to load, and we're trying to improve on the load performance. But there are some fundamental limitations using the Microsoft provider hosted app framework in 365. But we're trying to make that better. We've got some new ideas on how to get that down to really want it to be half a second on load. But once you've got it open, the form is more performant than InfoPath form services. So those are my demos today. Does anyone have questions for me? They want to see another demo? We've got lots to show you here. I just want to also mention that we have a bunch of webinars already recorded. So when we released 1.1 in December of last year, we did a webinar with a demo and we showed some techniques. And all of these webinars are on our Qdabra.com site. You can access them, of course, via YouTube, or you can go up to Qdabra.com and we have a list of webinars. And if you just search for FormsViewer, you'll find them. So just looking at past webinars here, you can search for FormsViewer, and we've got 4 or 5 different webinars we've done over the years showing our tool working. The tool is free. Let me just talk quickly about pricing. So we don't charge you for the tool. The license fee is free, but because we're hosting it on Azure, if we have a really heavy user, we have to do something because they're going to charge us. So Microsoft charges us for Azure, and then we have to pass on the costs to heavy users. So it's kind of a freemium model. So if we go to our FormsViewer page, and this is where you're going to upload your forms. If you are interested in having us quickly do an analysis of your form, of course you can install FormsViewer yourself, and there's documentation on how to do that. It's just an app. And there's, anyway, there's a little graphic down here. The videos are linked down below as well. But we've got 2 different things we're looking at in terms of pricing. Number one is for those heavy users out there, anybody who's got more than 200 opens a month. And this number may change. Right now we've set this kind of low. It's free up to 200 opens a month, and then if you're a heavy user, we're going to charge you a small fee. It's not user-based, and you can see that there's different pricing. This is still a kind of a work in progress in terms of the pricing for those heavy users, but the idea is it's a freemium kind of thing, like a lot of apps today. The other thing that I want to mention is that we don't include support, obviously, for free, otherwise we'd go out of business. So for those of you who do have, and we have quite a few customers now who are using FormsViewer, we do recommend a minimum of a basic support level, and that gives you, basically you're paying for hours, so 4 hours a quarter for help with your form. Most forms won't require much help. We just convert them over and they work just fine. But every once in a while there might be something like a new feature that you want to add, and you can use those hours toward that new feature. And we're here for you. Obviously, we're going to be pushing this tool further in the future. We're going to be integrating it with our database backend service, DBXL, and packaging it all together to make that seamless. Lots of stuff coming. Pretty much all I wanted to say today. I'm more than happy to do some more demos if people are interested. Jimmy, did you want to mention anything that I forgot to say, or call people's attention to anything since I got you on the call?
No, I think you got it all covered. I hope everyone tries out FormsViewer and lets us know what they think.
Great. So we'll take questions now if you got them. And while we're going to do one more submit here while you're waiting. And any questions out there from anyone? Looks like no one has questions today. So we'll get this recording out on YouTube, and we'll send you the demo file as well as the app file for FormsViewer, so you can install that. There's some documentation on how to configure those links. It's pretty simple, but if you need help, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're here to help make sure that Microsoft deprecation of services doesn't affect you. And there's cool stuff to come too. So quickly, I guess there's some questions. Jeff, thanks for being here. Your question is, can this be decoupled from SharePoint? If you want to answer this later, that's fine. It's a great question. Yes, it can be decoupled from SharePoint. We actually have an on-prem install as well. So for those of you who have SharePoint on premises, we have a FormsViewer, and we're working on a completely decoupled version. I don't know if we have documentation on that yet, Jeff, but certainly that would be something that would be available. There's no, I think right now it's a provider-hosted app in Azure, so it works well with 365, and we've got the on-prem version working, but there's nothing SharePoint in there that would, there's no dependency, so to speak, other than the templates page. So yeah, that's definitely something that probably isn't something we're going to be able to install for you next week, but you give us a month or so and we should be able to give you a version that's decoupled from SharePoint. Our main focus has been SharePoint because that's where people are getting impacted right now. Ken's got a question. Oh no, Ken, you have a comment. Thanks for the webinar. Yeah, thanks for being here, Ken. It's good to see you again. Mark, you have a question. Is there a separate UI for form design in FormsViewer? That's a great question. So for now, we're just going to continue using InfoPath Designer 2013. It should be good just fine for many years to come. Microsoft has said they're supporting InfoPath Designer until 2026, and that's the rich client. They're not saying that about the form services in 365. They are supporting form services in SharePoint 2016 until 2026, but they're not necessarily supporting InfoPath form services, and that's the browser support. They're not necessarily supporting that in 365 until 2026. In fact, I don't expect them to support it beyond 2018. So for those people, they need an alternative, and this is a low-cost conversion path. The designer today is InfoPath, and we are going to be creating a browser-based designer that replaces this. We have people started working on it, and ideally it's probably going to be Q2 or Q3 of next year before we have that out. We may have something out in Q1 prototype. We may actually accelerate it and try to do it at the end of the year, depending on the need. But there's really no I guess, hard dependency right now on. Or there's no what's the word I want to use? It's not an urgent topic for us because we've got the designer in InfoPath and it works just fine. Let's see, Jeff's got another question. Trying to quit using. Oh, you're trying to quit using SharePoint and move away. Yeah, so definitely, Jeff, please send me email, and I'll try to follow up after the webinar, but we have lots of customers that are using Forms without SharePoint, and we'd be more than happy to set it up for you so that you can reduce your cost. Keep in mind that with FormsViewer, you don't need SharePoint Enterprise, so you can get the free version of SharePoint. If there's a licensing cost issue, just install SharePoint Foundation, and InfoPath works fine in FormsViewer on SharePoint Foundation, and we have customers actually in that scenario today. So that's one option, and then of course the non-SharePoint is also an option. Okay, any other questions for us? I want to thank you all for being here. I'll get the webinar recording up on YouTube, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a great day.